you've got questions, we've got answers. We have the man to answer them. Jeffrey Labine from Buckingham Wealth Partners. Jeffrey, welcome back to another episode of Ask the Hammer.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Bob.
Great to have you, Jeffrey. I understand that your inbox is full of questions.
Indeed. Lots of questions. This one comes to us from Debbie, who essentially asked something along the lines of, my salary is not as high this year as it may be in other years, and I don't have the ability to defer enough from my salary into a plan and meet all my living expenses. Should I consider deferring more into a plan and then using money in my brokerage account to meet my living expenses in order to pay my bills? And it's a great question. I'm sure, a lot of people, as they come down to, let's say, semi-retirement, have this issue, right, where they're no longer making enough to fully contribute to a plan and also be able to fund their living expenses, but they may have other money saved. And in these situations, while every situation is different, it often does pay to contribute more into a plan and to use the money in your, let's say, brokerage account to meet your living expenses. Notably, every dollar in a brokerage account that you use is growing taxable, right? And it's taxable right away. Whereas if you want, you can reduce your income via contributions to a 401k plan. But here, the whole point is that income is somewhat modest. So let's use this as an opportune time to pay the tax. Let's do something like a Roth 401k if there's an opportunity to do that, because if the income is low, if the salary is low, that means we have probably a low tax rate on that income. Let's pay the tax now, make all the future earnings on those dollars tax-free. And instead of using those dollars, which we can now allow to grow tax-free to fund our living expenses, let's use the money that was in our brokerage account, our taxable brokerage account, our joint account, our individual account, our revocable trust account, any one of those types of accounts to fund our living expenses. Because again, the future interest, dividends, and capital gains that were otherwise going to be earned on those dollars would have been taxable in the future.
Right. So just a quick follow-up question, Jeffrey. It would seem to me that at a minimum, if whether it's a Roth 401k or traditional, she should be contributing at least as much to get the full company match as.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. That's kind of the secondary question, really, maybe even the primary question that might be asked is how much, if anything, are you getting from an employer match? Because that is effectively, if it's a full match, it's an instantaneous 100% return on investment. Tough to do better than that over the long run. So that's certainly up there for starters. And then beyond that, again, just using the difference in tax treatment of accounts, a individual brokerage account or a joint brokerage account, those are assets that are going to be subject to taxation on every dollar of growth, whether that be interest, dividends, or capital gains. Whereas if I can spend down those dollars now and put other funds into a Roth IRA, if we imagine a hypothetical scenario where someone is earning $30,000 a year and or close to it, let's make it 25, because you can put 25,000 into a 401k next year between your regular contributions and your catch up if you're 50 or older. If you were making $25,000 a year and you needed that to live on, let's say your living expenses were $2,000 a month, yes, you could just live on live off of your salary. But if instead you have that other money that's in a brokerage account, you can put that $25,000 into the Roth IRA. Again, that means all the future growth in that $25,000 will be tax-free. If you didn't do that, well, you would have spent that salary and you would have left $25,000 in your brokerage account that you wouldn't have touched, but all that is going to be subject to taxation in the future. So yes, you've got to look at your individual situation, but more often than not, if you can make that trade, I'll use dollars that are taxable forever in exchange for dollars that are tax-free forever and growing, that is often a good trade.
All right. Jeffrey, I think you answered that reader's question and then some.
Well, we thank Debbie for asking that question. And if you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to ask Bob and I a question, give us a shout. Email us here at askthehammer@buckinghamgroup.com. Again, that's askthehammer@buckinghamgroup.com. And Bob and I look forward to answering your question real soon.